Hey, welcome everybody. It is Out Comes the Sun Radio. We're here live on Lit Live. I'm Mariel Hemingway. I'm here with my wonderful co-host and best friend, Melissa Yamaguchi. And today we have a wonderful guest, of course, because we always have wonderful guests. And so, Melissa, what are we going to talk about today? Because I know we have something to talk about.
Well, we're sliding into the part of the year in my world where it's all about understanding um energy. We're sliding into a part where it's kind of like coming into your own and playing to your own strengths. And that's
Yeah.
one of my favorite mantras in life anyway. I've always pushed my kids that way. I've always believed it myself that I can't compete with what you know, Mariel, because you know it so well, but I know what I bring to the table. So I play to my strengths. And that's really a big major part of the message in energy this time of the year when we're sliding into spring, is to understand your strengths and play to your strengths. And
Right.
I, I think that's hard for people to do. And I think what a lot of people tend to do is they steal other people's, I know steal's a rough verb, but they in the what's that expression? Something is a form of best form of flat imitation is the best form of flattery. Isn't that the expression? Well,
Yeah.
I've always believed that whoever came up with that quote was the one stealing other people's ideas, because I think that it's a way of plagiarizing, and I've got a big
It,
issue with that.
I have an issue with it too, because I think well, it, it's inherently dishonest. And also coming from a writing, a literary family, it's like plagiarism is plagiarism. It's
Yep.
You steal somebody's words, and yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable, and yet at the same time, I do understand that there are no new ideas, right?
Right.
At some level, something has happened. This has probably happened centuries ago, and it's a reinvention of things. So everything's being reinvented all the time. But I think that even within reinvention, when if you are relaunching yourself, or let's say you're Madonna and you're coming up with a new image at, every 5 to 10 years, one should give credit to where you got the idea from, just initially, just to say, hey, thank you to my mentor, thank you to the icon that I've looked up to my whole life. At some point, I
Yep.
think there's just some level of respect and honor, and somehow it feels karmic to me. Like if you don't do it,
Yeah.
some of them bite you in the ass.
Well, I heard something. Deepak Chopra said it, and I'm trying to remember. He said something to the effect of, "There are no new ideas, but many ideas that were never acted upon are still floating." Right. So
Right,
someone thought about it and spoke it, but it never went into existence because maybe they didn't have the
right,
wherewithal, or they. So I have
right.
cultivated a format of feng shui that I don't know anybody else doing, but I don't inherently say, nope, just me, myself, and I. Da, 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 da. I believe that I probably picked up that thought from centuries ago. Feng Shui's been around 4,000 years. Someone may have had an idea similar to what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. So I know that from the 4,000 year old history of what I've studied, somebody at some point may have had some idea of what I'm at now acting upon. But I mean, I see blatant mimicking and copying of other people's ideas. And I think it's insulting, but I think what it really speaks to is a lack of ability to see their own strength and
Well,
just
and a
say,
lack of imagine, yes, a lack of ability to see their own strength, but also a lack of imagination. It's also a lack of,
yeah. Well, I wasn't going to say that, but thank you, Marielle.
well, I think it's a lack of imagination. It's like, hey, if you want to do something, then come up, do the work. Don't steal, just blatantly steal. You can take a little, give credit where credit is
Yep.
due, and do your own work to create your own tapestry of how you do it, right? The
Yep.
way that you put things out, the way you know if you're making a quilt, the way you place those pieces, it could always be different, and it's your signature.
Hmm.
But you've gotten things from others, but to not give credit is It's not cool. I don't know. I kind of know what you're talking about because I know you. Makes me.
Yeah, it especially in this time of the year. We are in a year of the year of the dragon, and I know we don't like to timestamp, but while this is being filmed, it's the year of the dragon, and rivalry's big, and wolves in sheep clothing show up right and left, and secret rivalries are even.
Well, I don't know anything about energy like you do, but because of my friendship with you and because you've told me so many things, you've been telling me about the energy of the dragon energy, which it's actually a very exciting time. So I see the positivity in it, but you have said that things that you want, you've got to really work for. You got to put the effort in, right?
I know it.
Otherwise, you're going to get in the end. I'm telling you, what are we 2 weeks in? It's insane.
It's insane.
It's so obvious that you have to work your buns off.
Yeah, who can take that little old plant? I mean, you're working your rear off. Oh yeah.
Like, damn. It's just like, you think you've said something that's moving along, then all of a sudden you have to redo the instruction manual again. And you're clear that you did that, but nobody understood it or something. You just have to work a little bit harder. And I guess what's been fun lately is just kind of going, all right, that's just part of this year. So you just know that you have to give yourself that much more time to get things done because it's going to be just a little bit more effortful. It's funny.
You know what? I love that you said you have to give yourself more time. You know what else you have to give yourself? More grace. Because you can be very crystal clear in your communication. You can have everything laid out in the best of plans, and then everything does a 180 on the turn of a dime, and you're right back to square one. So you have to give yourself and everyone around you grace. And we're being tested. I will say the month of March, as we're sliding into spring, it eases up. The tension eases up a little bit. So we get a little bit of calm this month, and we can breathe a little bit. But secret rivalry, a competitive energy, stealing ideas, mimicry, people who smile to your face and pat you on the back and then stab you even in your chest, right in front of you, in your gut. It's very real this year. And so, I've had people call me and say, oh, great. So now I've got to be paranoid about everybody around me. I've got to look at my brother sideways. No, it's not that. It's just be smart. You know how much we just go through routine and we just do the same thing and shake the hand of the same people, and we're not really paying attention to life around us. This is really a time for you've got to pay attention to what's happening around you and be fully vested in what's invested.
Honestly, if you really think of it as a spiritual exercise or a life exercise, it's really about being present. Like if you're present and aware of what you're doing when you're doing it, and not just doing things kind of like because that's your routine, that's what you do, you don't really think about it. But if you really stay present, and being present has been a big issue for me in my life. I think that being present is such an extraordinary thing to achieve. It's not easy, but if you can think that, oh, if I just stay present to each moment, each moment as it comes and goes, then really you're just going to react and respond to situations as they come up. You're not going to get flared up if you are present with it. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. Absolutely. And when I very first met you, do you remember when we met on the stage of the American Heart Association? So when I first met you, your speech was about being present and going through rituals in the morning that place you in the moment of present. Like when you're brushing your teeth, really brush your teeth. When you're drinking your tea, really drink your tea. And I had heard that before, but when hearing it come from your golden lips, it just rang true. I heard that and I was like, you know what? She's 1000% right. I mean, and it's such an easy request, but it is a tough task.
Yeah, it's easy and not easy. Like it's not easy. It's not easy. And it is easy, right?
Right. It's simple, but not easy. It's simple.
Exactly.
I mean, because
That's
when I'm
exactly
brushing
right.
my teeth, I am brushing my teeth, but I'm not going, the toothbrush connects to the molar tooth, and I'm not going through it. I'm like thinking, I got to get the clothes out of the dryer before they get
Yeah.
wrinkled. I've got to do, you know.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting. I mean, it's like breathing, because everybody thinks they know how to breathe, but most people really don't know how to breathe.
All they need to do is go get in Bobby Williams' stratosphere chamber and have Bobby come in and put his hands on your stomach and shove it down when you're breathing to go, no, here. Ah,
Breathe into this area.
yeah.
We don't, we, most humans breathe very shallowly.
Yep.
And, to take deep inhales and exhales, it's so extraordinary for you. So, it's the simplicity of staying present, breathing, and being aware. It's like you said, if you're aware, there's nothing to be afraid of. It
No.
doesn't change the way, so last year was a different kind of energy. Maybe you had to be less aware, but it's a good task to be aware. It's a good thing to learn how to do. So I think of it as a challenge that makes us better humans.
100%.
Right.
100%. I always tell my clients that this is your life. You have to participate in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being present is forcing you to participate in your own life.
Yeah.
How great is that?
It's so good. It's so good. So we have a great guest today. We have a guest, Faust Ruggiero. Ruggiero.
He needs to sing opera with that name.
He's so New York. It reminds me of Bobby a little bit. When he was talking, you'll hear him. It's a wonderful interview. And he's a guy from New York. You can just tell. It's like, this is the way it is.
Got an amazing approach to his craft.
An amazing approach. So clear. It's so good because he's not demonizing anything, and he's not patting everybody on the back. He's like allowing people to feel the way they feel, and giving them actionable things. That's what I love.
You know what he's doing, Mariel? He's allowing people to come into their strength, what you and I are talking about.
Yes.
He allows them to find their own strength at their own pace.
Absolutely. And he's saying you're the key. You've already got the answers. I love that part. I got so excited because I've always believed that everybody was already perfect. We just sometimes need to brush off the dust. And he gives you, he's got a series of books on like truly actionable things that enable you to do that. And he's fun. He's fun. He's such a different kind of character. I love the guests. We have such interesting, different kinds of guests that come from different ways of approaching kind of a similar subject every time. It's so interesting. So I think you're going to love Faust. He's great. So don't go anywhere, because we're going to talk to Faust, and you're going to love it. So stay where you are. You're listening to Out Comes the Sun Radio with Melissa Yamaguchi and myself, Mariel Hemingway. Welcome. It's Faust, right? It's Faust.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ruggiero. Yeah. I was like calling you Faust.
Everyone does. Mariel,
I'm so sorry.
People, my name is Faust, and they say, "Hi, Faust. How are you?" And I say, no, there's something in the space between us. I don't know.
I hear you. I get Mariel a lot, so I hear, or Mariel. It's a whatever. It's like, as long as you're calling me, I'm happy.
I'm just answering to Queen Elizabeth, so we're fine.
Exactly. Well, Faust, you are really doing extraordinary things in this space, and it's a space very close to my heart and Melissa's heart, because Out Comes the Sun, our slant is towards mental health. And what I love about your work is that you really look at all the aspects of what's kind of triggering brain response, and how we're responding physically, mentally, emotionally, and how we're either functioning well or not functioning well. And maybe you could explain to us kind of a little bit about what your, I wouldn't say even philosophy, but the things that you use to help people to find their path in life is really kind of how I'd like to start this conversation.
It's a good question. And for me, You know, this is a lifetime of work for me, and I'm 69 and I'm still doing it, and I still loving it. I've always looked at everyone that comes in my office as a gift. I mean, I love them. I love to be with them. You know, people will look at people that come for counseling as mental health people. I really don't like I don't even like the term mental health anymore. It's to the point now where, you know, they say, how's your mental health? And people will say that they immediately go negative, and they start trying to answer the question by telling you what's wrong with them. The last word is health, mental health.
Yeah.
You know, and we go negative with it. So I always have operated from the point that, you know, as their gift to me, they're a gift to themselves, and I work from that
Yeah.
position. And if you do that, people quickly pick up on that type of thing. If
Yes.
they think you think there's something wrong with them, then that's the place they start from.
Yeah.
But if they can understand
Yes.
they've got all the gifts inside them, we're just going to, you know, umpile some junk and then go get the rest of it. That's a great place to start. It really is. That's how I
Oh
would
my,
want to be.
I love that, because I've always said, you know, Melissa and I both speak in front of a lot of people, and oftentimes I will say at the at the end of the accumulation of whatever talk it is, and I'll say, you're already perfect. You already have a good body. Your brain is working. All of these things, you already have them. You just need to figure out what are the things that are blocking you from actually acknowledging that you already have all the gifts you need.
Mhm.
So I love that you say that, and you come at people from a place of positivity, because I think it is a blocker when you start negative, because like it feels as though you've started on a negative foot. I don't know.
Well, you know, when they come in, just to go right to the heart of it, I will say to them, you know, whatever you have before you even get started, because when you say what brought you here, what's going on, they'll say, okay, gee, where do I start? You know, and I always tell them, regardless of what you say, I got you. I know exactly where to go with anything you bring up.
Mhm.
You're safe here, and we are going to get this all worked out. When they hear that, you know, the first thing they're going to is say, okay, I'm going to rely on him, and that's fine to start, because then they're going to rely on themselves. But when they can make them understand that we're going to get everything they got, and we're going to fix it. Why would we not? You know, that's what I said. Why would we not?
Right.
And they'll come in and say, well, I've been to so and so. I said, well, that's all in the past. We'll use that, you know, to move forward. However, there's nothing you're going to bring up that I haven't heard or that I can't help you fix. Know that. And we move from that.
Right.
That's reassuring.
It is.
It really is. It really is. It's amazing. Well, and also it's nice to have somebody that you're safe to lean on, and not often does that happen. Melissa, I know you have a question.
Well, I was reading a
feeling.
lot of the work that you've done, and I was intrigued by one in particular, because, you know, what you see depends on where you stand. You opened up a clinic for deaf children, and I am the youngest of three children. The middle sibling is my brother Corey, who was born deaf. And so this is an area of my life that has affected me my entire life. And so I'm intrigued by opening the clinics for deaf children. What was the impetus?
Well, I worked with a cousin who actually was an expert with deaf kids. Residual hearing was involved, and she wanted someone to help her with the behavioral issues. And I was in my 20s at that time. And this was a person who had polio as a child, so she wasn't a very ambulatory. But it was a blessing in that, first of all, she was a very powerful person. She would not deal with her limitations in any way, shape, or form. So I saw that in a person to begin with. The other thing it did for me, which was really great, it was the first female I'd worked with. You know, it pushed that whole gender thing out.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the idea that it's just two minds connecting. And we began to work from that point. Then it was about the kids. And she would work with them, helping to put speech into them. And I would take care of all the emotional behavioral things. And another thing it did was, people with so-called handicaps, again, a word I hate, but people who have some challenges, I didn't fear them anymore. I didn't, stare. I didn't look, I didn't say, well, how do I have to handle this? I just went in and allowed myself to be me. And that is so empowering for other people. It's
Yes.
kind of thing that changes the way you deal with other people, not only in a clinical setting, but in your whole life.
Absolutely. My mother, my brother Corey would try, as most children are wont to do, would try to get out of his household chores. And he would lament to my mother, "It's not fair. I have to vacuum. I'm deaf." And my mother said, "It's not fair. I have to do laundry. My hair's red. Get in there and vacuum." So he wasn't given breaks. And then as Corey got older, he would say, "I'm not handicapped. I just can't hear." And I find it fascinating because people bypass um, being deaf, and I'll stick with this. I won't venture into any other area because this is the area I'm most familiar. But people would bypass this notion of, oh, they can't hear, without understanding what hearing provides us in our learning, and how much we pick up on the cues of social interaction just by hearing, and hearing how somebody flirts, and hearing how somebody receives a compliment, so forth, other than just reading it by script. And so oftentimes when I was around deaf children growing up, and now deaf adults in my adulthood, I would recognize that they felt limited, but not intellectually impaired. Obviously that wasn't it, but limited on, how do you know? And I was often asked that growing up. How do you know that that's how you're supposed to behave? How do you know? And I'd say I'd hear it. And they're like, well, we don't hear it. So Corey attended deaf school for a brief while, an all deaf school. And this show is not about Melissa, it's about you. So I'll get back to you in a second. I wanted to share this with you in appreciation for what you've done. He attended an all deaf school, and then my mother wanted him to attend public school. She said, "How will he integrate if he is a foreigner in his own country and he doesn't know how to assimilate?" So she chained herself to the stairs of the Capitol of Oklahoma City, the state from which I hail. Obviously, it'd be weird if she did that in Oklahoma when we were from Texas, but she chained herself to the stairs and really fought and petitioned. And my brother Corey was the first deaf child to attend public school. So any work that's done in this area, any recognition that's given to it, it always kind of makes me sit up a little bit straight. So I want to thank you for that. In addition to all the other work, I'm looking at everything that you've done, and we'll be here for a while if we list all of them. But you've all the work that you've done has been amazing. So I'm intrigued by your approach. The way you approach is similar. Obviously I don't have your background, but I've often thought that's the role we should take with children in parenting. So a lot of the approaches that you've taken is not see the negative, not see the bad, but really come in and see them as whole and good, and ready to go. And now let's help that blossom. It's miraculous. It really is.
And also speaking the language that we all speak. I think that what you come at, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're coming at people like as though they're already healthy. So the language is then, it's not, it's like when you're raising children. I never spoke baby talk to my kids. So, because they're not going to grow up being babies. They're going to grow up being people, that speak. Anyway, you need to speak now, because you need to tell us how your system works.
Mario, the thing that I found is that if you can empower people in the first session, and that's, I think, if anything, in my mind, has set me apart from so many people, is that I don't deal with the broken part in the first 3, 4, 5 sessions. I empower them right away. They don't know they have that power. Now, what happens after the first session, and I'm imparting some of that to them. The second session, they come in and they're ready to go because they've accessed something during that week or so that came out of the session, but they found it on their own. then they'll come in
Yes.
and either they'll say, "Hey, I thought about this," or they'll say, "You know what? This entered kind of came into my head, and I don't know what it is, but I never thought about this." And something you said triggered that. And all I'm doing is really kind of, I'm throwing them a lifeline, if you will. I'm saying, "Here, you got this already. You just don't know it." And
Right.
now
Right.
when they come into counseling, they're not coming in as this weak, broken person they thought they were supposed to be in counseling. They come in as a person who knows, I'm going there to access some things that I didn't access before. It's a different way to view people. That's why this whole mental health thing, and I just don't go, we don't work too well. We don't play well together. The people are, it's all there. I always say, everything you have is already inside you. It's there. We just have to access it. And where we're going wrong, I think, a little bit is that we're throwing so much information at people and they're hearing all of it. You go to a workshop, you go to something about
Yeah.
any depression, whatever it may be. You walk out with a ton of information. You have pamphlets and whatever else they gave you, and no action steps to make it happen.
Yes. Yes, you're so
And,
right.
and you'll
It's
notice
like,
in
okay, I know what the problem is. Yeah. Yeah.
And you'll notice in
You're
every
right.
chapter of every book I write, at the end, I say, now do this, which is what I do
Yeah.
in counseling. I say, look, based on this, I think we want to go in this direction. Let's do this. They may say, great, let's try it. Or they may say, I don't know if I can do this. And I say, just go try. And then we'll tweak it all next week when you come in. And they get to the point that they start realizing, this was there all the time.
Yeah.
It goes to what you opened up with when we were talking. There's a lot of stuff on top of it. I call it the purging part of the counseling. I got to get all this
Yeah.
negative crap out. You come and say, I've got anxiety, and in the meantime you're starting with 3 cups of coffee in the morning and an energy drink in the afternoon. You think maybe we want to change that around a little bit. So we purge out all the stuff. We get into the past, the traumas and the people that had hurt you, and growing up, what parents did, I mean, all those kinds of things. Our parents aren't perfect. They may have tried, but they did all those things that we like to hold on to. And now we're angry, and we
Yeah.
get all that stuff out of the way, and then now we start
Right.
getting powerful.
Right. And bringing up trauma makes me ask the question, how do you, like, because I'm a big believer, like, just tell the story and turn it into a story. Then it just becomes history, right? It's just film on the floor. But sometimes dealing with trauma and to really release it, how do you go about doing that? Just by having them talk about it, or what is your, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I start with emotions on that one because intellectually it's a little too hard to go in and get it all. They can give me their story, and I'll go through that. Okay, good. Tell me what happened. Mom and dad did this. Mom and or dad, when you were growing up, you have scars. We know this. Let's talk about how you feel about that. I want to get that. I'm not as interested in that right away, but they are.
Mhm.
They want to tell
Yeah. Yeah.
someone,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is what happened, and I feel this way. And they tried that most of the time. People come in, they've tried that, and someone shot them down. Someone invalidated what they're saying. Someone corrected the story or tells them what
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
should do with that information. And it went nowhere because they couldn't emote. They couldn't just get it out and say, all they want to do is say, will you kind of like wrap those therapeutic arms around me and say, it's okay. I believe you. I got you. So I let them do that first. It's what didn't happen as
Right.
a kid. Hey, mom,
Right.
your dad did
Exactly.
this. No, no, he didn't. Come on now, toughen up here.
Right.
Really,
Right.
you're 10 and you're supposed to toughen up. Well, no,
Yeah.
I want them to know they're validated. And I get a lot of
Yeah.
women that I've worked with over the years that have been abused as kids, and they come in and tell the story and they say, do you, and they kind of back up and say, do you believe me? I said, absolutely. I believe you. Of course, you just said it. Why would I not believe you?
Right.
Well, no one has ever believed me.
Mhm.
No, it doesn't work
Oh.
that way. If you said it, it's important to you. I believe you. Let's go get it. And that
Yeah.
changed.
Powerful.
Let's go get it and move on. That's awesome. That really is. That's powerful.
And
That's
that's a
powerful
lot. That's a
medicine.
lot of people have a lifetime of being told to be quiet and told to not talk about it and told him that they're embellishing, or what you remember is not as bad as you said it was. So that's really powerful that you're giving them that. Very powerful.
Yeah, it gives them a voice. That's really what you want. I think we want to be able to do is to I want them to know you are important to me, and I'm not blowing smoke. This isn't a therapeutic trick. They are important to me. If not, I should get out of the business, so to speak.
Right.
They're important. I love them. I want them to feel good. I want them to know that they can safely express those emotions with me if they want to, because I'm gonna then transfer it back and put, get that going in their own life. But they've been invalidated for so long. And the other thing is they grew up thinking a lot of those things were normal. That's the part that really makes it difficult,
Yeah.
because then when they get to adulthood and they start to tell their story, and I say, well, really, that happened? And they say, yeah, every day this happened. It started this way. It progressed to this. Dad did this to mom, or mom was out doing this, and I had to fix everything, and never ever questioned it. And as adults, they're trying to fix everyone else
Yeah.
in order to fix
Yeah.
themselves, which of course never happens.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's that it being invalidated when you're a kid and coming to believe that it's normal. In my case, my
Yeah.
dad had a stroke when I was 9, and it was just a debilitating thing. So 9-year-old, I'm I'm second in line of 4 kids. I'm the oldest male. So I just thought I was supposed to step right in there and be the man
Yeah.
at 9.
Yeah.
I didn't know how
Yeah.
to be the boy yet, you
Yeah.
know?
No, I know
So
that. I know that one.
yeah, and you
I
think
had
it's normal. You
failed
don't
parents.
question
Yeah.
it.
No,
You
you
take the
do.
responsibility,
Yeah.
and if it goes wrong, then they didn't do it wrong. You did.
Yeah.
You didn't do
Yeah.
something right to
Yeah.
fix that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah. There's a lot of stories coming up in my head
Yeah.
of my own stuff. It's true. It's true. And you think at your tender age of whatever age it is that you took on that responsibility. And it's so interesting that as children, we assume and we make those assumptions because nobody explains, because your parents aren't taught how to parent and you don't know what's going on, that you make this assumption that you're now responsible. I remember I was a primary caregiver for my mother who had cancer. So I totally understand that. And I think it's so helpful for people to understand that you have a story too. That's always important. I always know when I speak, I share my own story, not because I think it's so horrifying or whatever. It's just to say, look, we've all got one, right? We've all got a story. We all come from something. We've all been bashed down at some point. But then there's that moment where you acknowledge that, and when you get acknowledgement from somebody, an outside source like yourself, it's so helpful because it makes you feel not crazy. My whole thing in childhood is I thought I must be crazy because I couldn't get any validation for any of it. I didn't really understand it, and as I got older, I just made one interpretation on top of another. Anyway, that's going to be in our private coaching session. Never mind. Just kidding.
It's interesting. People will come into counseling and they assume that I have no issues in my life, and I
Yeah.
never
Right.
did. And I say to them, would you want to come to me who had no idea what a problem was, or what you may be going through?
Right.
You might as well come to a machine. One of the reasons I can help you is because I experienced a lot of that garbage growing up, just like everyone else, and I learned how to work through it. So I'm gonna use some of those experiences, not mine, but I'm gonna use that ability to process and move through experiences
Yes.
to help you do some things.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Where can our listeners get some of your books and get access to you? I know you shared your website on our commercial, but I'd like for you to kind of repeat it if you would here. I think they're going to want to find you.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah.
It's my name. My website is faustruggiero.com. And there I have everything. I have excerpts from the books. I have all different kinds of information there. People do contact me. I do get back to them. I think that's important. So, you know, that's easiest place to find me. The links to the books are all there. You know, so
Yeah.
it's not
And
difficult.
do you do a show on Coast Radio, right? Which is very big in this space.
George and
Correct?
Nori will call me every now and then and say, "Okay, it's time to do this." And you know, funny story. My publicist calls me and says, "George wants you to be on his show." And I know about the show. I said, "That's great." He says, "It's 10 o'clock." I said, "Fantastic." It's a little late, but that's okay. And then he calls back and says, "Man, I screwed up. It's 10 o'clock Pacific time. You're on the East Coast, so it'll be 1 in the morning for you." I said, "That's
You're like,
just lovely. I
oh,
can't wait."
wow. Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
Yeah, it's real nice. In fact, George did the forward for the last book. You know, that's how nice guy. You know, interested, and we
Right.
get
Yeah,
a lot of people that get back to us from his
absolutely.
interviews.
That's so great. I really do believe that your approach is so it's refreshing, and it shouldn't be refreshing. You know what I mean? It should be normal that you talk normally to people. But thank you for doing that, because I think it shows that everyone can feel better, can feel their mental, as you say, health. Our
Mhm.
mental health is a positive thing. Health is positive. It's not, we're not saying you're mentally ill and that you need to be committed. It's like we're saying something different. And I think there does need to be a different moniker for it. But Foss, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're really and truly grateful. And we want to see you be more a part of what we're doing over here at Lit Live.
You know, wonderful. I love working relationships. You know, if you want to, whatever we can do to help move things forward, that's what I'm looking to do. You know, that's what this is all about. So, you know, I'm looking forward to talking to you again next month, and we'll continue this a little bit.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Faust.
I'm Ian Hill. I have the tremendous honor and great pleasure of being the CEO of NGBN TV. It's the network for men in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and we have a singular mission: reduce the suicide rate of middle-aged men. Middle-aged men are 70% more likely to succumb to suicide than any other segment of the population. You see, we believe that too many of our fathers and our sons, our uncles, our brothers, our neighbors, and our friends are succumbing to suicide, and we aim to do something about it. Now let's go back to Out Comes the Sun with Mariel Hemingway and Melissa Yamaguchi.
Well, that was an amazing interview. I love him. I love his. First of all, did you notice his living room?
You know what? It looked like a Japanese cafe.
It looked like his living room was black and white, and he was in color.
It's a Japanese cafe. I'm telling you, it's a coffee shop in Japan. I've seen this thing. It's all black and white. It looks like you're walking into something that's not real.
It was so like
Very Faustian.
white.
Yeah.
Nothing was out of. I was like very impressed by it, to be quite honest. So
I'm going to tell myself it was a backdrop. Faust can't be that amazingly sweet and kind and live that perfect of life. I'm not going to allow it to happen.
not allowing it.
Faust.
Well, he does tell us about his own story, which I always appreciate that. It's like, when somebody's been through something, I don't think I could ever talk to somebody who didn't have a story themselves, right? I mean, you're human. He's a human. And I love that. Anyway, so I appreciate those kinds of conversations where and he just gets to the core, right?
Yeah, he does. You want to be able to go, if you're going to someone to work on yourself, you're going into therapy, you want to know that the person to whom you're speaking has your back the minute you sit down. And he made that very clear from the very beginning. I love what I do. I don't want to go to a therapist who berates me. I don't want to take my animal to a veterinarian who doesn't like cats and dogs. I want to be able to be with someone who appreciates the human spirit. And he does. What a refreshing concept.
Yeah, it really is. Really great. Really great. Yeah. That was so.
You're only human. We're not cutting that out either. Because that was beautiful. It did.
It's me laughing at you afterwards. And the cat is like trying to come in on
The
the.
cat already let its tail come into the screen 3 or 4 times.
Did-
It's like, oh no, you don't.
uh, 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 uh. My gosh. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us on Outcomes of Sun Radio. Remember that we are always doing this for a little bit for the Mariel Hemingway, not a lot, for the Mariel Hemingway Foundation, which really is just a resource navigator. All we want to do is be able to bring the resource for recovery, for mental illness or mental health issue that you have that works for you wherever you are in the country. We don't have that up yet. So if you go to the site and you don't see it, marielhemingway.org, it's only because we need the resources, the funds to actually become a resource navigator. And we will do it. This is the year that we're going to make that happen.
Well, yeah, we've got a lot of people writing into us asking to be included on that consideration for the roster. So let's get that up and running. Let's go.
Everybody who's listening that has written to us and said, can we be included? Just know we've taken note. You are in our files, and once we have that app up and ready to go, you will be included. And one thing you should know about that is that we want to be that resource that that you can rely on us to have checked them out, so that we know that they work. Or at least they're somewhat successful, because it's very hard. There's a lot of facilities out there, and it's not that anything's bad, but we want to know that their success rate is pretty high, because that's what people want. They want to go someplace and know that they're going to get somewhere. And that's why we have the guests that we have. We have guests that we think make a difference in other people's lives, and we want to share those people with you so that maybe you can work with them, or maybe they have an idea of somewhere in your neighborhood that you can go to so that you can get the help that you need. Anyway, that's all for today. We are, we're Outcomes of Sun. We're on Lit Radio, Lit Live. I love Lit Live. Lit. I'm lit.
That's so lit.
I'm lit. I don't know what that means. It probably means
Means you're drunk, but we're carry on.
Oh, it does? It means I'm drunk. See, that's me. I wouldn't know. Thank you, everybody. Come back next week because we'll be here. We'll be here. Woo!